Welcome, guys. This is going to be a very special video. I'm going to show everyone exactly how I went from an obese, lost, and depressed pothead to a God-fearing, strong-minded machine in under 2 years. I'm so excited to show everyone because this is the exact method of how I went from obese and abusing weed to a strong-minded, God-fearing machine in under 2 years. So if this is a quick fix, this is just entertainment to you guys. It's not the video for you, right? It's gonna be a lengthy video full of wisdom. So if you're here to learn and you're here to apply, then sit down and enjoy the video. All right. So from the start, just to run people through some things for you guys to understand. This is me. About 2019, I was constantly abusing weed. I was constantly running from my thoughts and reality, and it was my way of coping. And I smoked so much to where I'm numb, right? So you can see me getting high right here. I'm probably about 240 pounds, just all fat, no muscles, super skinny arms. It was just not a way of healthy living. Fast forward to the day, this is me, 200 pounds, full of muscle, and I'm keeping God at the cornerstone and the focal point of my life day in and day out. And it's keeping me strong-minded, and it's making me a machine to actually run this method. So for those of you who are on this journey and you guys are looking to kind of grow, this is the video for you. So before I implemented this method, I was so out of shape. Never worked out, never really took anything serious. I played sports in high school, but it wasn't actually something to where I was trying to be better. I was just trying to fit in. And I was about 240 pounds, 235 pounds, and I was getting high every single day. Every second of the day, I was trying to look for a way to run from my reality and numb myself from the thoughts that I always feared. And you can see I'm smoking the fattest doink known to mankind years ago. And it always let negativity consume me. But after implementing this method, I was at peace. I was keeping God the focus of my life and constantly just trying to build a relationship with Christ. And it entailed me to be healthier and not run from my problems, but to actually face them and heal. After doing all this, I was able to build a 200-pound machine, squatting 405 pounds and being able to run a 4.8, 4.7, 40-yard dash just as a peak athlete should, right? And most people say you can't do things as you get older, but through this method, I was able to do that. So that's why I made this exact method and my approach to this, because I don't want people to feel the pains that I felt. I do not want people to experience the numbness and the lost lack of light in their life. And I want people to just feel their best, right? And I understand both sides. I understand the pain. I understand the light. And I want people to feel that light. So I want this exact video is going to get everyone the insight on how to actually approach their situation and grow from it. So who this is for, right? So if you're looking to drop 10 to 20 pounds and finally reach like a healthy body weight, this is for you, right? If you guys want to be a better role model for your family and friends and just be the man or the woman that your family needs, this is also for you guys. And if you're sick and tired of letting life defeat you, staying stuck in depression instead of living as a God-fearing, strong-minded leader, this is for you. I've built this all just for people to rebuild their life through fitness and lifestyle changes, but some people that end up failing, I built this just for you guys, all right? If this falls under that category, this is a perfect video for you guys, right? But if you're expecting an overnight transformation, if you're okay settling for mediocrity or numbing yourself with bad habits and letting negativity control you, this isn't for you, all right? If you want change but you aren't willing to put in the real work physically, mentally, and spiritually, then there's no reason to even keep watching this video, all right? So you have to believe, if you're watching this video, you can't not believe you're meant for more, all right? You can't be unwilling to become the strong-minded, disciplined version of yourself God called you to be. Because if that's you, this video is not for you, and you might as well just click off and go scroll on TikTok or do something else that's going to give you that quick fix, all right? This is for people that are literally looking to transform their life for the better. So here's the truth, and no one will tell you this about transformation, all right? Most people don't fail because they're lazy. They fail because they chase quick fixes. So diets and workouts programs don't rebuild the person behind the habits, all right? So without changing your body, your mind, and your spirit together, relapse is guaranteed. And what I mean by that is, for so long, I would think that I needed to buy the best workout program, or I needed to, buy the next best, or get into the next best big thing for diet, right? But ultimately, that just led me back to relapse. It just led me back to abusing weed. It led me back to eating the junk food and just not being the man that I am today, right? The only way to transform is changing your mind, body, and spirit. The only way to transform is putting for good is by putting God at the center and building unshakable discipline. All right. So you can see literally me smoking the literally largest size doink known to mankind. And I was doing this because I would always, for a few weeks, be on this diet, and then I would crash and go back to my old ways, eating a whole Domino's pizza and smoking my face off until I was numb. Right. But once I started to transform, put God first, and then all that unshakable discipline came, that is the truth. You can't just find the next big thing. You have to change yourself internally to have an external change in your life. But don't worry, I'm not going to let that happen to you, because this method is literally built for the exact opposite. All right, there's no such thing as being stuck forever in old habits, and no reason you can't break free too. If I'm able to break free, then you are too. I'm no different. I'm a man. I bleed the same. I use the bathroom the same. Everything is the same as what I do day in and day out, that you are capable as well. All right, so don't let that hold you back from the thought process. And if you want to be that person that I just explained, I'm going to show you guys exactly how. I'm going to show you how to navigate the traps keeping most people stuck. I'm going to show you guys how I went from being depressed and lost and numb and overweight to just a God-fearing 200-pound machine full of muscle. All right. And I'm going to show you guys how to build that lasting, like it's a long-term thing. It's not going to be a 1 to 2 month thing. It's going to be a forever for the rest of your life. All right. So how to build lasting strength, confidence, and discipline. And how to do all of this without starving yourself or overtraining or falling back into the old habits that always ultimately left you behind. So here's a brief backstory about, how I got here. Very, very brief, but we can go into it a little bit. So since I was 9 years old, I was labeled the fat kid. I was constantly made fun of for it. Ever since, even I can date back to when I was 5, even before 9 years old, right? I was always fat. And this is going to blow people's minds, but even when I was in 6th grade, I was 165 pounds. When I was in 7th grade, I was 180 to 185 pounds. Right now, I'm 200 pounds. So I was a little boy weighing the same as I do now. So I was fat. I was super fat. And everyone would make these jokes as I was labeled as the fat kid, constantly made fun of for it. And it was something that always kind of ultimately made me feel self-conscious. And by high school, I fell into a deep depression. I starved myself and turned to weed as an escape, right? Other things ultimately led me to be depressed, not just the weight loss or the massive weight I had, but in general, weed was my coping mechanism. And as I kept smoking, it ultimately led me to be disassociated from reality and separate myself from any of those thoughts that anyone ever had about me. And eventually, I decided to take a different path. So about when I turned 18, I chose exercise, and it gave me purpose. When I was smoking, that was my identity, but it never amounted to nothing, right? Once I started to work out, it gave me true purpose. It gave me structure, and it became a healthy outlet that pulled me out of that dark place. So after experiencing firsthand how fitness transformed my life and how weed was used in my life, I never wanted to go back. I knew I wanted to help others to do the same thing I experienced, because I don't want people to be numb and to be depressed and to be in pain constantly in life. So I went to school, I studied, and developed my own method to have the art of training, and the rest is history. So this is the actual method that I built. It's the Ascend framework. It's my system I built through the trial and error of the last few years by putting God first and rebuilding the discipline I never had in my life and learning how to never fall back into old habits. That's the most important thing. Is we can do all these things, but if we relapse and fall down that ladder, then it's going to ultimately just be just as hard to climb up, right? So I've decided to break it all down for free today, all right? So you can see right here. This is the very first day I started working out, right? Say about May 2020. I was about 195 pounds here. This is after I would starve myself and have an eating disorder and never just really eat. And I would literally just eat blunts and bong rips for breakfast. And this is me today, lean, 200 pounds. I literally weigh more than I do in there, just full of muscle. So I'm going to show you guys exactly how I did this whole entire method from point A to point B over the next few minutes. So I'm going to outline the whole entire process, A to Z, of what I did to accomplish these results, all right? Because like I said before, you guys can use the same Ascend framework to drop 10 to 20 pounds, rebuild your confidence, and put God at the center of your transformation, right? If I can do it, if I piss, poo, sleep, bleed the same as y'all, what stops y'all from doing the same thing I do, all right? This right here is an exact process overview of how exactly to implement the Ascend method, all right? So there's 5 pillars inside of this, with 5 being the payoff. All right, it's going to be your end. So there's really 4 pillars to lead you to where you need to be. All right, pillar 1 is going to be finding God. Pillar 2 is going to be dropping all your vices. 3 is creating an unbreakable process that you can just always lean on. And then 4 is forging inner armor. And then once you guys complete these 4 things, you'll be able to have the payoff and living as a God-fearing, strong-minded machine like we all want. All right, so let's get right into it. So I can show you guys how I optimized each step of this stage so I was no longer trapped by the addiction of weed and lack of ambition in my life, and finally able to build my dream physique whilst also keeping God at the center of all of this. So first and foremost, always finding God. So putting faith at the center of my life has truly transformed my life. I was constantly anxious, constantly fearing the outcome of all things, nervous to speak to people, constantly just angry all the time. And it would even if I stopped smoking, because I was always trapped by society's standards of how to live my life, and I never was doing that. So it led me to be anxious and worry about what my other peers thought of me, right? But once I started putting God as the center of my life, all of that went away. All right, life without faith feels empty. Even when you have it all, it's still empty. All right. And second, faith gives direction when motivation fades. All right. And I'm going to use that as an example. Motivation only gets you so far. Discipline is what actually keeps you on that track. And you have to have faith to stay disciplined, because with faith, you know that the outcome will come if you stay disciplined to the action. Motivation only lasts for a few weeks, few days, few months, but then eventually it fades, right? But faith gives you the direction when motivation fades. So, for example, with me starting my weight loss journey, I had faith that if I stayed the course, it would give me direction, right? It gave me a knowing that I was going to be where I wanted to be if I kept going. Motivation only let me so far, only gave me momentum, but I had to continue to use that snowball with faith, all right? Also, having faith at the center. When life feels chaotic, putting God at the center creates peace and direction. You will no longer be anxious. You will no longer, have chaos at the center of your life, because you are putting true faith in God that He is just directing your path. There is no reason to worry, because God is already taking care of it. All right? And true strength comes from something greater than yourself. We're just man. All right? Man tends to make things fall apart. But if you lean on something stronger than yourself, then you get actual strength to know it's not going to fall apart. All right. So once I found God, it gave me purpose and direction. All right. Without purpose, it's easy to drift into destructive cycles. So you can see here, I had no purpose. My purpose was getting high. My purpose was, going to chase girls. My purpose was going to build a physique for other people to be pleased by me. Right. And that purpose ultimately led me to relapse. It ultimately led me to not be ambitious. Right. But you can see here, massive, look big, right? I'm lean, I look big, I look full, I look healthy, I look happy. That is me with purpose, because I was working for something in my life rather than just being lost. Without purpose, it's easy to drift into destructive cycles like smoking. All right, purpose anchors your life when life gets shaky. If you get out of bed and you have nothing to live for, and I know how this feels, if you get out of bed and you have nothing to live for, then there's really no motivation to get out of bed. There is no discipline to get out of bed, right? There's no reason to want to keep going to get out of bed, right? But when you have a purpose, it anchors you to actually be disciplined and get out of the bed in the morning, right? Purpose gives you direction. With God-given direction, you stop drifting through life and start walking with certainty. So that just goes back to the last slide we talked about. When you have faith, it gives you direction, right? Without faith, there is no direction. And last but not least, learning to lean on something greater than yourself, all right? Your willpower as a man, it runs out. All right, we get tired, we lack endurance sometimes. When you have God, that endurance does not fade away. Right? If you truly lean on God with faith and give all your worries and cares to the Lord, like it says in Peter 1, you're good. Like everything else is going to work its way out. All right, and once you surrender control to God, it creates peace and not weakness. So for me, once I surrendered to God years ago, through this whole entire process, I just stopped being anxious. I stopped worrying about my outcome, and I didn't have weakness inside of those emotions. And it created peace and certainty that I knew that everything was going to go on right. All right, because I leaned on God to remove the burdens of my life rather than carrying everything else on my shoulders as a man in society, in today's society. Second, dropping all vices. All right, this is going to be a very important one because when you have a vice, it's shackling you. All right. So, first, for me, this can be not everybody has the same two right here. But for me, breaking free from weed, alcohol, porn, or destructive habits was that vice. All right. You can literally see me right here. I was down bad. I literally look like my eyes are cross eyed and I can't even know what planet I'm on. I'm on planet Neptune. I'm literally down bad, as the picture said. This is years ago. All right. When you have vices, vices numb pain and they steal your progress. All right. So without you realizing it, it's literally stripping you away of the progress that you were supposed to make in your life and just putting you on this path of uncertainty and no growth. It literally kills your ambition. All right. It numbs your pain to even not know what is right from wrong. It numbs you from even knowing, growth to not growth, right? Because you're always just numbing yourself to run from something. All right. Every habit either builds you or breaks you. And you have to consciously think about that when you go along this journey. So for me, once I step back and realize, why do I smoke? Why do I use alcohol? Why do I do these destructive habits? And realizing it, does it build me or does it break me? And ultimately, those are breaking me. All right. And freedom, when you have freedom from these vices, it means you're no longer chained by old patterns. Like I literally just said, you're no longer shackled to old patterns and being able to be held back and numb to certain things. So once you actually break free, it actually opens growth. All right. It's literally like you're opening a book and you're rewriting the script and you're able to take in more things rather than just being numb and doing the same old things over and over again. So this is exactly what I did from start to finish, right? I dropped all the vices. And how I did that is I replaced numbing with growth. All right. So number two is I replaced numbing with growth. What does that mean? I truly just, instead of focusing on just smoking, I built a mindset that made me want to focus on growth and not the numbness. Growth feels uncomfortable, so does staying stuck. Right. And I think everyone can agree on that. Growing feels uncomfortable. Literally, when you build muscle, you're breaking down the cells and you have to rebuild it. And that's the same way life is, faith, mindset, all of it is the same way. You're going to be uncomfortable, but you know you're growing, right? But when you stay stuck, it's the same old things. You're literally uncomfortable because you know that you could be doing better and you get conviction, but you stay stuck because it's the easiest thing to do, but you need to grow, right? What you feed grows, what you starve dies. So, me in this picture, high school, clearly out of shape. I'm big, you know. I was feeding my weed mind. I was feeding my earthly mind. I was feeding my fat behind McDonald's and Wendy's and Chick-fil-A, all these foods, and it was ultimately killing my progress to grow into the man I am today. And without you realizing it, you are killing your ambitions and you're killing your future by feeding one thing more than the other. But once I started to feed myself, like in this picture, once I started to feed myself healthy foods and feed myself Christ and feed myself a healthier mindset, it ultimately led me to the man I am today, right? And it's the way you have to treat yourself if you want to grow. You can't constantly just numb yourself and do things that are negative. You have to cut off what doesn't grow, all right? Choosing growth is choosing your future over your comfort. It's literally what I just brought up. All right. If you starve yourself, you're killing yourself from your future. You have to lock in and you have to realize what is the right and what is the wrong and what do I need to feed myself in this present moment. So you have to keep yourself accountable. All right. Accountability accelerates growth. All right. If you don't have someone to keep you accountable, think on it. All right. You have one person. And if you don't have one person, you have Christ. And that's at the end of the day, God accepts all. All right. Having someone hold you to a standard keeps you consistent. The right community makes relapse harder and progress easier. All right. So my community, that was God. But God put people in my life like people like my friends that I can call brothers now, or, my future spouse, or my mom and my dad. I started to accept those people more once I accepted God. And the right community made it easier for me not to relapse and not to smoke or fall back into these negative, destructive habits. All right. Like Proverbs 27:17 says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. You have to have a community to help you grow into the person you want to be today. All right. Step 3, creating unbreakable process. Building discipline through daily systems. So this is the actual breakdown of what I did to create the body that I did and the mindset that I did today. All right. So you can see me here, no discipline, clearly overweight, no muscle, skinny arms. This is probably junior year of high school. This is me a couple months ago, but today, an absolute unit. Arms are massive, and I give all glory to God, right? But the difference in these two pictures, I had no damn discipline at all. I might have been motivated for a couple weeks to work out, right? Or to be healthy, but it never lasted because I just had no healthy habits in my life. So you have to lean on discipline rather than motivation, like I talked about earlier, because motivation eventually fades. Discipline is a long lasting thing. So when emotions would normally derail you, your system keeps you on track. So when you have a disciplined system, a system that keeps you accountable, and a system that builds you up, it's going to be harder to fall off of that system. All right. Because you have to, in the system, it focuses on habits and not emotions. All right. If you're constantly acting on emotions, then you're not going to do things correctly. If you're acting on habit, then most of the time, if you have a system, then it's hard to fail. All right. When your systems are solid, results become automatic. Training, nutrition, and lifestyle routines that stick. All right. These are the systems. Before I was eating and this is a true story. I would get 2 Domino's pizzas, thin crust, pepperoni, sausage, jalapeno, and bacon. If you know, you know. But I would eat 2 of them. 2 medium pizzas in one sitting. I'd go to Wendy's, get 2 4-for-4s. I go to Chick-fil-A and I get 2 sandwiches. I get a sandwich and then a sandwich meal on top of that. And I'd crush all of that. Like, obviously, these 3 things are different meals, right? But it led me to be fat and it led me to be unhealthy, and which when you are big, it leads to an unhealthy mindset because bad things come from that baggage, right? But once I switched to these healthy whole foods, mangoes, dates, eggs, potatoes, avocado, all these things, it literally transformed my life, all right? So I had to learn the hard way that even if you're working out, it's not just about the workouts to be healthy. It's about how you live, all right? You can't feed yourself. If you're, let's say you are a Camaro, 2023 Camaro, supercharged, you're fast, right? But you feed yourself standard gas. The engine's going to mess up. There is no stopping it. The engine will mess up if you feed yourself standard gas. That's common sense. That's why we have different gas pumps at the gas station, right? But the standard car gets standard gas. But if you are a premium car that needs premium gas, that's what you feed yourself. So you need to live that way, all right? Your body reflects your daily habits. I was out of shape. I was fat. And it reflected what I did day in and day out. And it showed my laziness through my body. But now I reflect and exuberate that hard work and discipline every day in and day out. People can see it. All right. When you train and you're eating right and your lifestyle aligns with these things, the discipline feels effortless. Discipline is one of the most important things. And you have to install that in your brain, right? But when you're training, eating, and your lifestyle aligns, it's going to be effortless. It almost is just robotic the way you actually are going to be able to operate and be to see the benefits and the fruits of your labor pay off. All right. So small, consistent routines stack in a major transformation. You don't have to do this whole entire 360 in your life. You just need to make these small, gradual changes, and they will eventually roll into a snowball effect of big changes. And learning consistency over motivation. All right. So we saw this picture earlier, but this is me when I started working out. This is probably the second year of me working out. This is year 3. And you can just see that I was consistent. I was lean, I was skinny here, but I wasn't as big, all right? But you can see in this picture, I'm a lot larger. And this was the consistency that kept me going through it, all right? Motivation is like the spark. It starts your fire. But consistency keeps the fire going, all right? You, of course, need to have some inertia. You need to have something that gets that push to go, right? But once you push, you keep the ball rolling through consistency and discipline. Consistency makes discipline effortless over time. So if you have a system that is built properly, then you can ultimately find the lifestyle you want. All right, the reward comes to those who refuse to quit. If you're giving up, then you're not going to find the life you want. You can see here, I did not give up. All right, I have truly a different physique in these 2 pictures, right? But the difference is when I was fat, I gave up. And these two pictures over the year difference, I never gave up. And you see that growth right there. All right, and the fourth one, forging your inner armor. All right, and that's going to be all about the mind. All right, mental resilience under pressure. All right, pressure exposes cracks or proves strength. In life, you literally need to be broken down to know what is right or wrong. Right? If you are constantly just never given any push or shove in your life, then you are ultimately not going to grow. So, and I think everyone can agree, maybe not everyone, but in my opinion, you need to suffer in order to grow. All right. You need to suffer to know what pain feels like. Because if you never knew what pain feels like, then you wouldn't do certain things. Am I right? Or am I right? But the ability to endure is a weapon in itself. If you can endure through certain things and through certain trials in your life, then you know that you are being tested and growing through that. All right. So you need to be able to have mental resilience under all types of pressure. All right. Anytime you have a setback as well, that is a lesson. All right. Anytime in the past, you can't look at yourself and tell yourself, oh, well, I didn't get that job, so I'm just now going to sit on my ass and play video games all day. No, it's a lesson. Every single thing is a lesson. You can't harp on the past. You only can use the past as a lesson. Setbacks aren't failure, they're feedback. They're feedback to give you a a perspective of how to go about the situation next time it comes. All right. So I lost my weight. I went to 240 to 160 and then back up to 200 pounds. But through that process, right, it wasn't smooth sailings. So you can see here, I'm saying, oh, next cut is going to go crazy. That's BS. Like, I was just BSing. Like, I clearly was out of shape. I see I have a gut. I have some fat around my chest. And then here, I'm chiseled. I'm lean. And the difference between these right here is I would allow this setback to beat me up back then. And I would stay down, right? But as the years went on and time went on, I built that mental resilience to learn from my mistakes. And developing an identity that doesn't crumble when life gets hard. You need to have things be hard in your life. If your identity is fragile, then the world will break with it. All right. So you can see in this little description, hopefully it's big enough, but you see a man that chooses the easy decisions in life, but when the hard life comes, right, he's not able to climb up that hill. But the man that chooses hard decisions climbs up this steep hill to lead himself to an easy life. And what I mean by that is I was always choosing an easy life, right? I was always trying to have an overnight how to lose 20 pounds in 5 days, or I would always be like how to make $1,000 in one day, right? That stuff is BS because you're choosing an easy life, and when things get hard, you are truly just going to fall back down into that hard life because you don't know how to deal with shit. And excuse my French, but you don't know how to deal with life. All right. But when you have hard decisions and you make hard decisions every single day, your life ultimately is going to be easy because you can constantly deal with the pressures of life and the suffering of life. You can deal with it now to create that easy life because now everything else doesn't seem like it's a boulder on your shoulders. All right. Who you become matters more than what you achieve. If you achieve something, it can be taken away from you. But the person and the man or the woman you become, that can never be taken away from you. So you have to really, really, really focus on who you become and the process rather than the outcome. And lastly is the payoff. All right. So once you align all of these methods, you start walking with confidence, discipline, and purpose. Confidence comes from keeping promises to yourself, whether that's months, weeks, days, years, whatever it is. It builds confidence if you keep promises to yourself. And the discipline that you are going to build through keeping this method creates freedom and not restriction. All right. So you can see here, I had no purpose. I was still overweight, lost, young man, would allow external things to control me. But then here, I followed my purpose. I built what I wanted to build, and that's a business today that will be lasting. And I'm confident in that because I have kept these promises to myself to create the confidence in myself that it's not ignorance, but it's true belief because I've done it before. All right. And then here, you have a second pillar is a leaner, stronger, and athletic body. So if you keep this method in the back of your head and through your weight loss journey, your body becomes a reflection of your discipline. You are going to show the fruits of your labor sprout if you continue to water that seed. All right. An athletic body represents resilience and consistency because you'll become proud of who you see in the mirror. All right. If you are never consistent and you don't face resilience and you don't face that pressure in life, then you're ultimately just going to fall back into the body and the mindset that you've always been in your life. But if you keep that in the back of your head of becoming a reflection of your discipline, then you're going to get a body like this. All right. And then lastly is a faith driven mindset that keeps you from ever slipping back. All right. Faith locks you into a higher standard. All right. If you don't have a standard, then you set expectations that make you feel comfortable. But when you have faith in God, it literally just locks you into a higher standard because there's a mindset that comes with walking this lifestyle. All right. Your mindset becomes armor against old habits. It becomes armor against negativity and any attack against your spirit. Once you have this mindset, it's hard to break through those chains. It's hard to break through that armor. So it's like you got diamond armor in Minecraft compared to leather armor, right? It's harder to die in the game if you have diamond armor, for those if you don't know, right? And then once you're transformed, you don't crave what once controlled you. You don't crave that giant pizza. You don't crave the 3.5 gram blunt. You don't crave the fat bong rips or the running from your thoughts and running from your pain. Those things don't come to you, right? And it's just like the scripture says. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he's a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. So you literally are creating a new lifestyle, right? Addiction is just your old lifestyle becoming into your new life. But you have to create a new lifestyle to run from your addiction. So now that you guys understand exactly how this process works, I have an offer for you. All right. If you are a faith-driven man or woman who wants to put God at the center of your life, that's someone that's tried countless times to break destructive habits that have been holding you back, and a person who wants to see them be the best role model for your family and your friends and your peers to look up to. All right, and are ready to drop 10 to 20 pounds and rebuild a body you're proud of, wanting to create a discipline, confidence, and consistency in your life, and you are seeking freedom from the shackles of depression, failed attempts, and wasted times that have been holding you back, then I have built something for you guys. All right, so this is the Ascend one-on-one coaching. This is something that I've been building for some time now, but I'm going to walk you guys step by step through the Ascend framework so that you don't have to just start this process. You actually finish it. All right, you won't waste months trying to figure it out on your own or keep repeating the same pain and setbacks you've already experienced. And I'm so confident in what we build together that I back it up with my guarantee. If you show up and put in the work, I'll make sure you succeed. If you want to experience the same kind of transformation I went through and gain access to the exact system that made it possible, hit the first link in the description and I'll book a call. That way we can see if it's a good fit for you. Worst case, if it's not a fit, I'll still point you in the right direction so you'll leave with clarity on your next steps. But if it is a fit, then we'll get started in the exact process. That exact process can finally free you from the old habits, rebuild your body, and anchor your life in discipline and faith. All right, so don't wait. Every day you put this off is another day you stay stuck. Take action now. I'm looking forward to speaking with you guys soon. God bless and have an amazing day.